Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to be learning with you once again. Thank you for all you do in the way of your spiritual growth and by way of service. The presentation today is entitled Setting an Example. And it comes with a question. Are we always setting an example in our thoughts, words, and actions? The laws of attunement, vibration, and service work together in the example we set for others and ourselves. We will examine this matter as the outer self increasingly learns how to work and unite with the inner self, the divine within. And in this way, we'll explore further Rosicrucian laws and principles that we study weekly in our Rosicrucian lessons. To prepare us for this subject and for a meditation that'll allow us to experience it even more deeply, at this time we'll share with you an image of a mural that is of a very inspiring nature. This is a work entitled Quilting Party. It's by the renowned American muralist John Thomas Biggers. This mural was painted on acrylic on commercially gessoed canvas, 7 feet 0 inches high by 21 feet 0 inches long. It's in the Houston Music Hall in Houston, Texas. John Thomas Biggers incarnated from April 13th, 1924 to January 25th, 2001. It's interesting that on the occasion of the publication of an exhibit catalog in 1995, that the director of Houston's Museum of Fine Arts, Peter C. Marzio, said about John Biggers that he was a poet, philosopher, teacher, draftsman, painter, sculptor, muralist, and above all, an inspirational leader. Hence, you see, he set our topic today of setting an example, being an inspirational leader. Further, that director of the Houston's Museum of Art goes on to say that in the catalog, he leads us by his powerful imagery, his impassioned discourse, his intense energy, and his all-consuming belief in human community and its mystical interaction with the natural world. There's a lot to take in this work, and it has a lot to do with our topic of setting an example, particularly setting a good example, an inspiring example. Let us move through this large work, 7 feet by 21 feet, and see different parts of it, and we'll apply it in our ascent to the heights of celestial meditation shortly. You see over here on the left side, there's a depiction of family that was very important to John Thomas Biggers. He was a continuation and was inspired by the example of the Harlem Renaissance. And he grew up in Gastonia, North Carolina. And he experienced a great deal of prejudice. And he had to work hard to bring out his inspiring example, and be steadfast as an example to others. When he was a student of art, originally his mother wanted him to be a plumber. So he originally enrolled in school as a plumber, but they also had some evening classes in art, and that's where he really found his mission in life. Now, one of his art teachers would also experience a great deal of racism and prejudice, and that's Victor Lowenfield, who was a Jewish person from Austria, who was there at the time when there was the building up towards World War II in Germany, and in 1938, Lowenfield left and came to be an art teacher in the United States. He'd been greatly impressed by the renowned psychologist Carl Jung's work on art therapy and art archetypes, the Jungian archetypes, and Lowenfield would bring that to his teaching and help inspire Biggers along the lines of Jungian archetypes, but also what in mysticism we refer to even more deeply as divine archetypes. So in looking at Biggers' works, we need to keep these in mind Also important what Bigger's doing in his murals and his other artistic work is he's working to connect his African American heritage and that of African Americans with African teachings and philosophy. It was striking that Lowenfield was actually very knowledgeable of African art, and he brought that in his teachings to the United States. Now, in this work, you'll see, for example, in African tradition, various things that have to do with African American culture, but also the African culture, philosophy, science, and art, particularly West Africa. John Biggers was fortunate to get a grant through UNESCO to go and study art as well in Africa in 1957, and later. Which made a great impression on him that he was going home. In a way, in mysticism, we always want to work towards that deeply going home, deeply into our understanding of ourselves and the divine within, our true guide in life that we increasingly identify with as we grow up and mature. And you'll see depicted throughout this work, you'll notice here, I think many of you will recognize this musical instrument here. It has gourds for its resonance, and it has a xylophone-like structure known as a balafone. So it's a gourd-resonated xylophone. And it was in this work of art, the quilting party, John Biggers is conveying to us a great sense of movement upward, and uplift, inspiration of music, the inspiration example of people, even living under great and harsh conditions, that the human spirit will triumph ultimately. He has in here a symbol of turtles, which is in part of the African stories, as well as ones that you'll find in the United States for example, the fable of the tortoise and the hare, and the turtle of the tortoise was steadfast, dedicated, patience, and kept their eye on the goal and achieved. You notice also here the depictions of family, those that are singing and dancing, and they're rising up, being ascended up symbolically, but also in an inner spiritual way. As we move across the painting, you notice we come towards the left part, and towards the center. We'll see the spiraling motif here. We'll see the figures of the church. We know that John Biggers we had a very deeply rooted Christian upbringing. The Rosicrucian teachings are not religious, but and because they're deeply spiritual and mystical in the nature that they help us understand all things in a more deeply and profound way, and enter into our full maturation as a human being, which means fully developing our spirituality in a highly balanced way. Now that as a child, John said his family would listen to a Wings Over Jordan gospel music program on the radio on Sunday mornings before the family went off to church. And that Wings Over Jordan and the music that he was brought up with, he would later realize how deep roots it had back in Africa. It was very important for us to know our roots in their deepest way, and we'll find through our elders, if we're patient, like the tortoise winning the race, that we'll find the deep mystical experiences are being expressed through that culture. The Rosicrucian teachings are part of that and help in that. As we move through the work, you'll notice, again, some other intriguing things happening. Like again, we see here the balafone, the gourd-resonated xylophone. It also has a very intriguing geometric form here. John had, through his trips to Africa, his own private collection of African crafts and arts that he used as motifs in his work, along with his own extensive study of art history, which he taught. He was deeply versed in Western art history, but also over time, African art history and how they inform each other. And here we have an allusion to the morning star, which he also connected with the Queen of Heaven. You'll notice the various sacred application of geometry here. We find on the base the equilateral triangle, the square with the same base, then the pentagon, then the hexagon, then the octagon, then the decagon, and then the dodecagon or the 12-12gon. All, and there's 7 figures here. He's working, as we know from his own studies and his interviews, and I'll give you one of his interviews in the resources later. You can see things that relate to what I'm talking about. He's very interested in the archetypal nature, divine nature of number and geometry and how it's applied both in African and Western traditions. The sculpture here is actually, the image here is based on a sculpture. They referred to as the morning star. You see here queen and king royal figures. We also see sometimes referred to in the United States or North Carolina as the shotgun houses, but also thought to derive from the West African word shogun to mean the divine's house. We'll see here persons carrying on them even a church and daily goods that would be typical of African persons walking to market, carrying back home various goods. You'll see a variety of animals with a highly stylized form. There's also the checkered pattern, and very importantly, with the title of the work, The Quilting Party, that he observed his mother and his grandmother working in quilts. He saw how they took leftover pieces or discarded pieces uh, that they would then gather them together, piece them together in quilts. And he found that as a powerful metaphor of an archetypal nature about how in our own lives, in his own art, he would take various pieces and bring them together as part of the creative process, such as emulated here or in his wondrous mural. The royal figures, of course, connect us with divine spirituality, the spiraling figures here with dynamic energy. As we move across the mural, we'll see more of this wondrous work unfolding before us. Again, here's the turtle motif, but you'll see a variety of other things to do with nature and the quilt, of which the mural in a way is a quilt. In a way, our own work in our life is creating a great quilting pattern. You notice as we continue to cross here, there's an obelisk and shrines here. We see persons working in a field bending over themselves also, again, below a third balafon. And here we see another depiction of a star, this time the evening star. Birds and actions of nature. A washing board here that maybe you've had some experience or used or saw your elders use, and a figure of African sculpture playing a flute-like instrument. He wanted to suggest dynamic movement, sense of oneness of community, the importance of family, the uplift, the transcendent movement up. All things that we can apply in our meditation shortly. You see again on the far right here, very much suggestive of a traditional quilting pattern. And then he had a great deal of respect for the various arts and crafts form. He didn't view, the fine arts as being a higher elevated form of art, that they're all forms of creative expression, whatever they may take in his life. And then he set that example to us and to his family and his students. So let's come back where we began with the whole large mural. And let's use it as our launching point for our meditation. At this point, we'll apply instructions of the Rosicrucian booklet, Liber 777. So I invite you at this time to, as you look at the painting, just breathe a little more deeply than usual. And if it's comfortable for you, you can extend your exhalation so it's a little longer than your inhalation. like the great sense of ascension that's in this work. Let us ascend soon to the heights of the celestial sanctum, the highest point human of consciousness. I invite you now to close your eyes as we continue our breathing, extending the exhalation longer than the inhalation. We feel the relaxation response, the stimulation with each outgoing breath of the great vagus nerve that helps us to have an autonomic balance. That is a balance between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. We learn about in our weekly studies, the Rosicrucian order M1. You'll find there's a building cumulative effect with each extended exhalation. Deeper and deeper relaxation, calmness, tranquility, equanimity, imperturbability. One of the very important things to motivate us about this form of breathing is the calmness it takes us into is fundamental, crucial, necessary for healing, making whole, whether it be of the body, the holy temple, or mind, or our whole nature. I think you'll find with this form of breathing, it stills us, and that stillness and slowing up helps us to be more optimistic. This has been studied in modern scientific studies, but it's something that the Rosicrucians have known down through the generations. Another wonderful thing that happens is our heart rate slows up. It works more efficiently, pauses longer. In a way, it sets an example for us in our own lives. How through calmness, we become more competent. All our faculties work together. We're able to work more efficiently and accurately. We can take longer breaks to be recharged and rested, just like our heart does when it's calm. We move into optimal heart rate variability, the great balancing of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Just like riding a bicycle, left and right handlebars, guide and steer the left and right side, just like we guide and steer ourselves through the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. One for action indeed, the other for reflection, contemplation, and realization. I think you may feel a tingling sensation, particularly starting in your extremities, which has a wonderful tonic effect. That's what the Rosicrucians refer to as the vital life force, or the acronym VLF. Particularly with that tingling, we feel the positive polarity, the cosmic essence. Just feel all there is to feel. Just let it develop. Just be receptive. Soon we'll ascend to the heights of the celestial sanctum. In this way, we can set our own example for others and for ourselves. Now, applying the instructions of the booklet Liber 777, which we'll give you resources on later, and a wonderful book to keep returning to. Because in a way, it sets an example of those who have gone before us in ascending to the heights of celestial sanctum and how to do it. In a way, we emulate their example, then we also come into our own unique way of making the ascent, what's true and right for us. To begin, now that we've applied the law of purification through our breathing exercise, let us apply the law of purification further. Through the following prayer and invocation, I invite you to say with me. May the divine essence of the cosmic infuse my being and cleanse me of all impurities of mind and body, that I may enter the celestial sanctum and attune in pureness and in worthiness. So mote it be. Now let us begin to ascend. Use all your inner psychic faculties and imaginative capacity. Picture yourself rising up over your home or office or building where you are, up over the house and the building, up over your neighborhood, your local geographic area. It would be rural or a town or a city. See the great system and order below. And rise up over the county where you dwell even now, your province or state, rising faster and faster. Now up over your great nation or country. See the great landforms below. The weather systems, the oceans, the lakes, the deserts, the farm fields, the hills, the mountains, the rivers, whatever is applicable to your locale as you rise up higher and higher over your country and nation. Taking in now the continent where you dwell, even the hemisphere, the great oblate spheroid of the earth, the temple of the earth as we rise up higher and higher. Seeing the great example of the cosmic and as above, so below for the ruling, inner ruling of our own life. Keep rising up faster and faster up above the solar system, the great fiery ball of the sun, the beautiful elliptical orbits. Great example and inspiration to artists in our own creative work. As we rise up higher and higher, past myriad stars and stellar phenomena, and the great stellar webs connecting stars and galaxies. Past pulsars and quasars, black holes balancing the universe. And sense even the great spiraling forms of the Milky Way galaxy's arms. So we pass right out of the Milky Way galaxy and look back at its great arms, revolving about the center where there's a huge black hole. Keep rising up faster and faster. See other galaxies, some in a spiraling shape like our Milky Way galaxy and other forms, even clusters of galaxies. So we rise higher and higher, faster and faster, way beyond the speed of light. Enjoy the exhilaration of the ascent. Experience the cosmos you've never had before. Rosicrucians speak of the cosmic as the universal intelligence back of the universe or the cosmos, and also all natural and spiritual laws that we learn weekly in our lessons of the Rosicrucian Order Memoir. Just continue to rise up higher and higher, enjoying the exhilaration of the ascent and the wondrous example of system and order set for us by the cosmos to mirror our own lives in system and order. I think you'll see not only now clusters of galaxies, but also clusters of galaxies known as superclusters. Enjoy the great system and order and the tremendous range of vibrations that the Rosicrucians refer to as the cosmic keyboard. It all manifests through vibration. And take it in through the physical senses and also the psychic senses that we develop in our Rosicrucian studies. The great sea of vibrations form a wondrous harmony of the spheres, music of the spheres. We continue to rise higher and higher, also applying the law of correspondence. But as we rise higher and higher into the cosmos, we go deeper and deeper into our own nature, to the divine within. And match and interconnect the microcosm and macrocosm. And in the distance now, I think you'll sense a great cosmic axis and the motion of the cosmos, the universe, about, rotating about that great axis. Sense the stupendous harmony and motion of the universe about this axis. And let us zoom in on the midpoint of that axis. And as we reach it, slow up and be still there, taking in the beauty and wonder and harmony of the cosmos, mirrored in our inner nature as a microcosm. I invite you now to follow further the instructions, the booklet Liber 777. Visualize there your personal sacred space, your celestial sanctum, maybe an inspiring temple on earth, sacred place in nature that's particularly important to you. Fill in the sights and sounds. The others on this conference call with us now, Grand Lodge and Supreme Grand Lodge officers of the Rosicrucian Order Amor, may be conducting a sacred ritual, the heights of the celestial sanctum. It was to picture stained glass windows depicting Rosicrucian and mystical laws and principles. Feel the exhilaration of being at this high point of consciousness, akin to the exhilaration we felt as we rose higher and higher into the cosmos, deeper and deeper into our nature. Fill in your visualization with profound and grateful emotion. Experience this great place of healing, great place of knowledge and wisdom, great place of stillness and well-being. Let's apply the law of silence now. Feel all we can feel as we release our visualization of the celestial sanctum and go into peace profound and deep stillness of the universe and our beings. Find your mind wandering, just lovingly and gently. Bring it back. This discipline of the breath at the heights of the celestial sanctum. No need for any self-negativity in this or any other matter. Embrace life, its lessons. The stillness of the heights of celestial sanctum will reveal what we need to know now. Now let us undertake another spiritual operation of the work and worship of the Rosicrucian Order Amor. This time I invite you to join with the Silent Council in conjunction with the Council of Solace, the Grand Lodge of the Rosicrucian Order Amor. And from the depths of our being, like a great spotlight radiating light out into the cosmos, or a great flooding forth of waters from the fountain of life. Let us radiate love and well-being to all those who have petitioned the Grand Lodge of the Rosicrucian Order Amor for guidance and healing. And let us radiate love and well-being to all those who petition to affiliate bodies, our Grand Lodge, for guidance and healing. And let us radiate love and well-being to all those you know who are in need of guidance and healing. And let us radiate love and well-being to all sentient beings throughout the cosmos who are in need of guidance and healing. Just let the love and well-being radiate out from you, moving out at a tremendous rate. It's like we rose up into the heights of celestial sanctum at a tremendous rate. Enjoy the exhilaration of the flow, and doing increasingly surrender to the divine within that knows best how this is done. And will set the example for the outer self. Enjoy the flow, reaching out to all those in need from the depths of our being. At a certain point, I think you'll find the flow will speed up and you know you're reaching those in need. At a certain point, too, I don't think you'll need to make any conscious effort anymore. Let the divine within undertake this spiritual operation fully. And then let this dwell in silence as the spiritual operation continues. Soon we'll formally close our period of sending of metaphysical aid. We'll remain a while longer, the heights of the celestial sanctum, in meditation. Let us be assured that the radiations of love and well-being will continue from the depths of our being as a way of life and part of our mission in life. In this way, setting an example, seen and unseen. We'll formally conclude our period of work as a silent council in conjunction with the Council of Solace, sending metaphysical aid. I invite you to say with me now, if it pleases the cosmic, it is done. So mote it be. And let us continue to commune at the heights of the celestial sanctum. Feel all there is to feel. Whatever arises, let it go. And continue the period of cosmic attunement in the eternal now. Experience the cosmic. Be the cosmic. Assume the cosmic. Now. Let us continue in communion, one with the one. Regenerated, reintegrated, re-enlivened, remade. Soon we'll begin our descent from the heights of the celestial sanctum, taking this cosmic attunement with us as a way of life. To set an example, not for our self-aggrandizement, but for the encouragement of ourselves and all we come in contact with. At this stage, you may wish to invoke the law of gratitude, and express thanks for all those who have set an exemplary example to you, set a good example, a loving example, an enriching example that we take with us throughout the decades, throughout our lives, whether the person knew they uplifted us or not. Now let us begin our descent back, moving faster than the speed of light, past the myriad superclusters of galaxies, clusters of galaxies, galaxies, stars and stellar phenomena, enjoying the exhilaration of the descent, taking the cosmic attunement with us, sensing it throughout the cosmic, through the universal mind. It's a tremendous harmony, beauty, an example for us always in all our creative work, as we see the handiwork of the divine around us. And see in the distance the great spiraling galaxy, the Milky Way, our local home. And let us plunge back into our spiraling arm, continue faster and faster beyond the speed of light, past nebulae, quasars and pulsars, asteroids, rogue planets, and see in the distance our solar system, beautiful blue jewel of the earth, the hemisphere where we left off, the continent where we dwell, our great nation or country, our province or state, our county, our local geographic area or town or city, our neighborhood, and invite you to say with me, following prayer and invocation. May the God of my heart sanctify this attunement of self with the celestial sanctum. So mote it be. Let us continue to descend on our home or building or dwelling, the room where we left off and however we're situated, lying down or seated or other form. And when you're ready, you may wish to stretch the holy temple of the body, move your fingers and open your eyes, feeling regenerated, re-energized, and rested. All the more ready for the work and worship of the Rosicrucian order. Thank you. This concept of setting an example, our topic for today, is something that we find in various ways in our Rosicrucian teachings. For example, in the Rosicrucian Code of Life or the Rosicrucian Creed for Happiness that I'll give you resources on. I know many of you are already very familiar with them and consult them daily for their inspiring instruction. And you may recall or come to mind from the Rosicrucian Code of Life, item 7, behave in such a way that all those who share your existence or live in contact with you regard you as an example and feel the desire to be like you. Guided by the voice of your conscience, may your ethics be as pure as possible, and may your first preoccupation always be to think well, speak well, and act well. Indeed, in response to the question, are we always setting an example in our thoughts, words, and actions? The answer you may wish to contemplate is yes, profoundly so. Now, it's easy to see in our actions. It's often the common expression, actions speak louder than words. I think you've found that that is profoundly true. It's wonderful, these distillations of wisdom. Indeed, wisdom generally can be distilled in one short sentence. And you can see it in words to it as well, what we're saying and doing. But again, with actions speak louder than words, it's the actions that happen the most important. And then when we think, well, thoughts, aren't those private to me? Well, in the Rosicrucian tradition, thoughts are things, and thoughts also lead to manifestations that form examples. And we're also setting an example to ourselves, and that's where it behooves us to set good habits. And our Rosicrucian studies allow us to do that because habits are seen as laws in the subconscious. And as we find that there's habits that we have that are no longer serving us well, they may have served us well as children to adjust, survive, and so forth. We find deeply through our meditation, that purity of consciousness we come in, that they need to change. And the Rosicrucian studies allow us learn to do the different phases of mind, how to work with the subconscious, and replace that old law in the subconscious with a new law. It's important to be with a new life-embracing law that will set a good example for ourselves and others that will follow from it. Now, it's also very important in this matter, and it reminds me of the master Yeshua, spoken in Matthew 7:20. When translation is, he said, "Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. By their fruits you shall know them." You know, this is very important part of setting an example, but also just our discernment in human relationships. Yes, we can see what people are saying, doing, but what are their fruits? What are they actually bringing forth as a good example, bringing forth in service? Sometimes can be telling when we're with a person, how you see they're addressing their friends. We'll know sooner or later they'll address us that way, whether it be for upliftment or the opposite. And it behooves us to also see that, because the most important form of criticism is self-criticism, and to work on that, and thereby improve the example that we're setting. That's true. One may say, well, I didn't have a very good example set in my upbringing with my parents or aunts and uncles or elders. Or there may have been one who was particularly good and it was a lifesaver in a way for us. Whatever it was, if we were fortunate to have a great example set to us, know that the highest standard and the greatest standard of our behavior is from the divine within, the master within. It will show the example to us and behooves us to increasingly identify with it and be it. And that was part of our purpose of our meditation period today, as well as the inspiration of John Thomas Bigger's work, the quilting party, um, through the exemplary of those who have gone before us, those who have triumphed under great challenging examples and conditions. At the quilting parties are a great metaphor of. Now, in the Rosicrucian teachings, there's a strong emphasis on the development of character. It's very important that our character be highly developed, and part of the reason is that it's the character fundamentally is what we set our example of. Because one can wonder, well, how can I be of service? Well, one of our greatest work of service to be the example that we set, being a good example. We could say, well, how that's possible? Well, we're setting an example 24 hours a day. I mean that in the deep mystical sense. Even when we may be in a room alone, we're still setting an example for ourselves and how we're radiating our thoughts and love and well-being. And part of that's the development of the virtues. We learn more about that in our Rosicrucian studies, through the trials and tribulations in our life and learning from our uplifting experiences and from the divine intimations of the cosmic consciousness that we had opportunity to experience in our meditation and continue in it as we build up that increasingly sense of cosmic sense as a way of life. And that in this service, an application of the law of service, yes, there's various things that we can do as teachers and as parents and building and various things that we have strength in. And we set an example there, but think of oneself continually setting an example. Now, yes, that can seem like that's a tall order to the outer self, but not when the outer self works with the inner self. Then what can seem impossible starts to become possible. In this too, they're alluded to earlier that the cosmic sets an example to us, and it behooves us to experience the cosmic through meditation and then to emulate it. Those experiences of tremendous love, we then have that opportunity to be more loving. We can remember and draw forth those experiences. Those various tremendous experiences of joy and well-being. Remember those as touchstone experiences. You start to feel the outer nature taking more control in our life. Let the inner nature, and then remember those experiences, soak up the outer nature, to heat up the inner nature. That way the inner self can increasingly identify with it and realize it. These deep inner experiences not only are tremendously uplifting and healing, but there's a tremendous or deep meaning and familiarity with them, like coming home, just like many experience from the Rosicrucian studies. Even deeper part of that is that they're coming back to their true nature and self. You know, it's quite beautiful in that from the Shakespearean drama Hamlet, and I know many of you greatly appreciate the Shakespearean works and that tremendous conveyance of the cosmic consciousness through them. In Hamlet, Act 1, Scene 3, this above all, to thine own self be true. This is a wonderful cosmic lesson that's being conveyed through the wisdom of those dramas. Indeed, it was a speech that was given by Polonius, who was chief minister of King Claudius. And he was saying it as advice to his son who was going off to university, summing up. And in saying that, what conveys it most strongly of all is if we've been setting that example. Because if we, as the expression goes, if we do as I say, not as I do, that tends to backfire and blow up in our faces. People will follow or set by our example. Now, it's good to be aware of that we're always setting an example and draw on the strength of the inner self for that. But it also behooves us, and this can seem daunting to the outer self, but not when it works with the inner self, is that if we have a special role, like a presenter or a teacher, an instructor, a professor, or if we're a supervisor, or we're a manager, or a leader, or we're a parent or a guardian or some other type of task, there's an even stronger intensification of us being observed. And it behooves us all the more to work with our character and be aware that the example we're setting, because our example is being uh, amplified or intensified. And this is something that has to be done with humility and continually drawing on the divine within. For as we rise to the occasion, we dare to do, the strength will be given unto us, to use the Rosicrucian adage. It also behooves us to apply the law of balance. We want to make sure that the examples we set are true and genuine ones, that are not, that are built on a strong foundation, not built on a foundation of sand. It reminds me, for example, a case um, in a hospital that one professional healthcare worker was saying to the other, well, look at Dr. X. What a great example he sets in terms of dedication to his work as a professional healer. And the other, the overall all overtime hours he works, the other health professionals said to them, all that work and overtime actually is because he feels competent here. He doesn't feel competent with his at home with his with his 6 children. Um, so he's avoiding that. So we want to make sure that we're living lives of balance, that we are not overdoing one area to be very strong in it and then being weak in others. We want to show people that we're learning, we're growing, that we're always students on the path, and that we're learning from them as well. It's also very important to always be embracing lessons. I know sometimes when you say, well, that subject doesn't really interest me or I'm not good at that. That's the way the outer self talks, not the inner self. The inner self is guiding us to look at knowledge, to always be gathering it. Indeed, when we come into cosmic attunement, we're aware of all knowledge. That's why we can flood out of our meditation experiences various impressions and intimations and pieces of a puzzle that we need to know uh, in trying to uh, work towards various life goals that we're developing. Sometimes, yes, they'll come as complete alchemical distillations, a very simple insight. We know what to do. Sometimes it's pieces of a puzzle combined with meditation and visualization. Um, that and also part of the reason it's good to know things very broadly across the arts and the sciences, um, culinary arts, whatever it is that allows us to have a wide, rich range of impressions, flows, these deep inner spiritual intimations for the outer self to realize them and know them and to be at one with the one and live out the fully divine state of that, as with Rosicrucian for was the rose foi. So at this time, I'll ask Karen to paste in the chat for you some resources if you're inclined to follow up with them, in addition to the weekly lessons of the Rosicrucians. Um, there'll be 3 pastes with the links active there. There will also, she will upload for you a PDF document with those same links, which I think you'll find easiest to download if you're so inclined. And I'll give our concluding statement now that we've looked at the question, are we always setting an example in thoughts, word, and actions? And I viewed that very much in the affirmative, and something for food for thought for you, as Rosicrucians as walking question marks. And in that, we set an example. We've looked at through the laws of attunement that we've applied in vibration and service, how we're setting an example for others and ourselves through the vibration of thought, through the vibration of word, and through the vibration of our actions. And we examined how it's very important for the outer self to increasingly work with and unite with the inner self, the divine within. And in this manner, we have a deeper understanding of applying Rosicrucian laws and principles, what it is to be a human being, recently identified with the one. And we've worked for creative expression an application for the mastery of life and harmonious living and service. Thank you, everyone.